Hello everybody and welcome along to the Race Anywhere YouTube channel. Now if you're new here, you're probably not the only one. I am also new here. Now some of you might recognise me from the Traction GG YouTube channel where I've spent the last 3 years making sim racing content of all sorts, but here on the Race Anywhere channel is my new home, so welcome along. Now there's been a lot happening in the world of sim racing so far in 2024, but the big news this week is the early access launch of Le Mans Ultimate. Now I've been desperate to see how this game is going to turn out for a long time. I'm a big Le Mans fan, I'm a big WEC fan, so this thing has always excited me. This week the game finally became available. However, the day before it happened, I got COVID. So instead of jumping straight on and playing the game, making videos for you guys, I lay in bed trying to sleep with a fever. So yes, I am a little bit late to the party, but thankfully things are improving, so despite me looking and sounding even more horrendous than usual, I am actually very excited to jump on this today and give it a go. Now in this video, my plan is to have a quick look at the features available in this current version, this launch version of Le Mans Ultimate, and basically try and help you decide whether or not this is something you want to be investing in. So without further ado, let's fire up the game. So here we are then on the main menu for Le Mans Ultimate. Now those of you who did follow the Traction GG project will know that Traction GG was owned by Motorsport Games, and this game of course is produced by Motorsport Games and more specifically Studio 397, so as you can imagine I've got a little bit of personal investment in this. Yes, what we did was completely editorially independent, but of course some people I've known over the past few years have been heavily involved in this game, so I've been really hoping it's good. It's not going to change anything I say, I'm going to give you completely honest opinions on this, but I'm just really hoping that everything is as good as I know it can be. Now I should mention that I have spent a couple of hours this morning making sure that things are working, getting the game set up so that this is a fairly straightforward experience, and of course I've gathered some thoughts in that time. I'm going to give you my first two key takeaways at this stage. Number one, and it's quite an obvious one if you look at the main menu, there are a lack of features at this early stage. Yes, we have Race Weekend, we have online multiplayer. Other than that though, it's just settings and profile changes, so we really do need to see more features from Le Mans Ultimate later on. Of course, it's early access, so we do expect more things to come in the future, but right now, it's very much a bare-bones skeleton title. Now, continuing on that thought, it's not just the lack of features that make this very clearly an early access title. There's also been a lot of little issues and glitches and bugs that I've encountered so far in my brief time, especially on the Race Weekend mode, which I'm going to get into now. So I think I'm going to start by doing a quick race and qualifying session at Bahrain. Now in terms of a car, I want to pick a car that I've not seen in a sim before that's going to be something that interests me to drive. I know the Ferrari is obviously going to be a popular choice for many. I'm actually going to start with the Peugeot. Despite their struggles in WEC, I think they did an incredible job at Le Mans. Came pretty close, as to be said. About halfway through the race they were actually looking really good, like they might even contend for the win. So just before I start driving, I'm going to give you a quick run through of some of the little issues that I found so far. First of all, I was unable to change the weather in the first practice session I did from dry to rain. However, it worked when I reset the game. It's working absolutely fine now as well. There's also an issue if you're racing multi-class and you don't do a qualifying session. If you just do a race session, the game will randomize the entire grid, so you could have a GTE on pole position or an LMP2 on the front row instead of a hypercar, which is obviously unrealistic, so that's another little bug that needs sorted. Another issue I had was setting a race to be 12 minutes long and it actually turning out to be 4 hours. So these are all things that you will have heard before if you've seen any other content following this game. It's things that will definitely be fixed in future, but you're just going to have to deal with for now. There are quick fixes and workarounds for these things, which you can find on the Le Mans Ultimate website. They have a list of hot fixes and known issues, and there's also a forum page where you can pretty much ask anything and you'll get answers, and you won't be the only one having these problems. Okay, let's get the first laps in our Peugeot under our belt. Unfortunately, you don't get that beautiful hybrid to combustion engine that you get in the Cadillac and the Porsche. There we go. And the first thing you're going to notice if you're driving for the first time out of the pit lane is just how little grip there is, especially in a hypercar. And that's going to bring me on to key takeaway number 3, realism, authenticity. First impressions, when you're on circuit, this absolutely nails it. This is not an easy game. This is a game that if you're inexperienced, you're going to pick up and you're going to struggle with at first, especially when you have the assists on lower. Now obviously the game does have assists, so I'd recommend using those if you're new to this, but even for experienced drivers, this game's going to take some getting used to. The tyres are stone cold when you pull out the pits, which is exactly what it's like in the Real World Endurance Championship. Many teams had big problems with this in 2023. It was different for Le Mans, but that was it. You really have to delay every time you put the power down. Now there is real road present as well, which essentially means that the grip will develop as the session goes on, and also if you leave the settings on default, you'll have more grip during the race than you would have in a practice session, for example. The track essentially rubbers in over the weekend like it would in real life, which is, again, another tick for the authenticity. It's very likely that if you jump into a hypercar, your first few laps out the pits are going to be bad. They're going to be slow as you try and bring the tyres up to temperature. It's just inevitable. Alright, finally beginning to feel the tyres coming somewhat up to temperature. Still blue on the bottom right hand side of the screen, but we're getting there. We've also got what looks like a Proton competition car behind us. Another one of the hypercars. It can brake a bit harder now. Just ease off as you get close to the apex. There's a Ferrari just come out of the pits. Just letting these two hypercars go by, because then we'll get to see what it's like to follow in this game. Oh, if I can avoid making mistakes. It's getting a bit tasty. You can see the AI quite comfortable sending one down the inside of other AI cars. Oh, I'm just trying to hold on to the thing. And you can hear there the sound as well in this game. Oh, we're going to brake too late. Just about held on to it, but yes, sound. That's probably key takeaway number 4. The sounds are just incredible, and it's not just your own car and your own experience. The curbs and everything's great, the regen under braking. It's also the cars around you. You know, as you go past another car, you can hear their engine notes so clearly, and that is very realistic. I think we're going to move up from 7th in the qualifying standings here. P8 actually, we've dropped 5/10 behind our teammate. Oh, big lock-up as you can hear there. And again, you can really notice the sounds working. There's the LMP2 as well. Could you hear the engine note? Superb. I'm going to save any chat about driving physics and force feedback and stuff till later on in the video when I've done a little bit more. For now, I'm going to skip qualifying and get into the race, because I feel like we're now up to speed with this combination. There's a Toyota on pole position, well that's realistic. There's a Ferrari on the front row, again, fully realistic. Porsche's doing quite well, Peugeot's a little bit further down, and then the van wall towards the back. That is pretty realistic. I mean, normally the Cadillac would be a bit further up, but I mean, everyone's within about 2.2 seconds. I'm heavily impressed with the current BOP balance between the different teams. Let's jump into the race then and have a little look at how the AI actually react in a proper battle. Just whilst I'm in the setup menu and looking at things, key takeaway number 5, it's very clear that this game has a lot of R-Factor 2 underneath the hood, because the setup menus all look very familiar, even just the certain quirks of the settings menus, like for example, the fact that to turn off the head vibrations and stuff you have to go to the controller settings. You've got the crazy inverted force feedback issue that some people have with this game. There's a lot of things that come across from R-Factor 2, both the good and unfortunately also the bad. So I guess that's a key takeaway as well. If you are into R-Factor 2, this is going to be quite familiar to you in many ways. Right then, here we go, following my teammate Luc Duval, heading to the start of our first race.
Green, let's go.
And just like that, I wasn't even ready, it's underway. Got Porsche Penske's either side of me, Cadillac coming behind. Overwhelmed by the sound of all of these cars, heading towards turn 1, we're going to brake nice and early. I've got invulnerability on just for these early races because I don't want them to be ruined by a bit of contact. Need to get a bit of heat in the tyres. You can see there the Toyota getting sideways on the exit. We're going to try and take advantage passing Boemi. Nice and easy. Now there isn't a radar at the moment with this game. I think there's a way of getting one to work, but nothing that comes with the game as standard. Hopefully that's something they can add in future, but we're going to settle now into position. I do actually have a bit of heat in the tyres, so that's good. When I skipped the formation lap, it did seem to do a little bit of tyre warming for me, which is a good feature. You don't want to have to do a formation lap every single time. Well, I don't know what happened there, but I locked the rears. Now just for your information, I am running the AI on 80%. aggression, not speed. They're on 100% speed. I thought 80 would be a nice balance between ridiculously over-aggressive and actually realistic, and I mean, so far it seems to be pretty good. And that matches the experience I had when I was setting this game up this morning as well. The racing I did then was really, really good, to be honest. The way the cars behaved around me, the way my car behaved underneath me, everything about it felt really immersive. Beginning to get a little bit more comfortable now. We're catching back up on the Toyota. Yeah, when I locked up the rears here in the last lap, I definitely noticed some strange behaviour. It looked like almost the AI cars jumped a little bit. I don't know if you saw that, and I might be totally wrong. We'll throw a replay on, but it felt like it just went a little bit weird. Go for it on the Toyota. Oh no! I've hit my teammate. Got away with one there. Thankfully, invulnerability saves us. Can we pass the other 9x8 cleanly? Good exit from the hairpin. No, I've locked up. So I guess the answer was no. But I'm really having to try hard to race these guys well and properly, and it's good. They take advantage of your mistakes. That's more like it. Hang on. My pit lane speed limiter is locked on. So basically what's just happened is the replay's finished and the game's immediately resumed. In my panic, I've gone to pause the game, but in doing so hit my speed limiter, and now it's locked on. It won't turn itself back off. So, yeah. I guess it's fairly realistic for early season Peugeot World Endurance Championship racing to be stationary at the side of the road. While I get lapped by everybody, I'll move on to key takeaway number 6. The AI seemed to be really, really good for racing. Now, obviously you haven't seen a huge amount of it yet, but honestly what I can tell you from my experience so far with lap traffic, with cars in the same class, the AI race you well. They seem to be natural in their movements. You can run 3 wide. They make mistakes as well. I've seen AI cars spinning out at sunset at Sebring and bringing out yellow flags without any involvement from myself as a player. So AI gets a big tick from me at this very early stage. I really did want to get to the point in that race where we started catching the back of the GTE and LMP2 field, because that's when multi-class racing just becomes so incredible, but I guess you're going to have to find that out for yourselves. Let's head in for the first time to online mode. Now, I haven't done any practice or testing of this at all, so this is literally the first time I've clicked the online button, and what you can see here is we've got a GTE fixed race at Fuji, but you've also of course got intermediate and advanced with multi-class, hypercar, and well, everything else. Now, one thing I haven't done yet in this video is just run you through some of the basic key information about this title. So you may be wondering, is it available on console? The answer is no, sadly not. It's PC only, currently available on Steam. This might change in the future, but right now it's just PC. It's also £24.99 or $32.99 if you're in the States. And of course, as I've banged on about many times, it is very much an early access title, so you pay the money and you get the game in its current state, which is clearly low on features. It's got a lot of issues, bugs and glitches and stuff like that. All of these things will of course be ironed out in time, so you just have to put up with the development cycle if it's worth the money to you, and then hopefully in the next few years we'll get a fully fledged game that really taps into the potential, because the driving is phenomenal. I do have to say that compared to the likes of rFactor 2, even though you can feel the RF2 base in a lot of this, the UI and stuff looks a lot cleaner, and I guess that's key takeaway number 7. It's just prettier, it's more functional, it's more intuitive, although at the moment it is very laggy and a bit disruptive in that sense, and there's a bit of delay in terms of your inputs and stuff, but once they get that sorted, I do think the UI is a genuine step up. I have seen a lot of people driving the Porsche. I know it's going to be a popular choice, so I'm going to actually go for the Corvette, just to do something a little bit different. Okay, so we're in our first official practice session now. The drivers you are going to be racing against are going to be based on your safety rank and your driver rank, so you should be against similar level drivers, but obviously as this will be my first online race, and for many people this is early days as well, the rankings won't have established themselves yet. Takeaway number 8, by the way, GTE cars and LMP2 cars are going to be a better starting point for you if you're fairly new to this than the hypercar. I've driven the LMP2 when I was setting up this morning, and this is my first few laps in the GTE, and they are definitely easier to get up to speed and comfortable with than the hypercar. Whilst I'm chucking this car around in qualifying, it's probably a good point to talk about key takeaway number 9, the handling and the physics. Now, you might expect this to feel pretty much exactly like R-Factor 2 based on a lot of things that we've talked about already, but honestly it doesn't feel like R-Factor 2. It feels similar in some ways, of course, especially the force feedback and the way the tyres behave, and you know, the fact that you can feel the flat spots in so much detail, and that's definitely a positive thing. But in terms of the way the car actually handles compared to a GTE like this that you would have driven on R-Factor 2, it's not the same thing. It is definitely different. I'm going to need more time behind the wheel to really decipher all of the details and my thoughts on how good everything is, but first impressions are genuinely very, very positive. This Corvette is a little bit sharp on entry when you turn in. The back end feels a little bit light. On exit, because you've got the traction control, you can kind of get away with it a little bit more. But it doesn't feel like you have to drive the car quite as aggressively as you do in R-Factor 2. Now, in terms of the LMP2 and the hypercars, again, I was happy with how they felt on first impression. I mean, the hypercars, the 3 different cars that I've driven in my time this morning, all of them handled slightly differently. You could feel the different characteristics. So that's definitely a positive for me. I don't know if it's going to be straight into the race here, or if we're actually going to have to do a formation lap. My car stalled straight away. I feel like we're just going to go green here, and I'm going to be catching up the pack.
Green flag, let's go.
There we go. Right, I'll not take advantage of that, because that was not as it should have been. Okay, the car behind me did. Just take it nice and easy into turn 1. Of course, instant points are a thing, so you don't want to be making contact with people. Safety ratings are a thing. Saying that, I've already made a bit of side-to-side contact. No radar, so it's very difficult to tell exactly where the cars are. I'm going to leave a bit of room on the inside here and go wide. Got through okay. Another slight bit of contact, but it's okay. Still side by side. And a big crash up ahead of us. Ooh. We're through. Take a few more positions through the chicane. So far, don't seem to have any issues with lagging cars or rubber banding or anything like that. Seems to be, to me, perfectly clean so far. And the racing's actually been good by the looks of it. A couple of little rubs here and there, which is kind of inevitable with your first ever race. Mixture of abilities and safety ratings, and there you go, a bit of a dive bomb from the Ferrari, if I can get my words out, but the Aston does well to kind of avoid it. Everyone's been pretty respectful. Bit of oversteer mid-corner, but move done into turn 1. I don't think he's going to come back here, and that's us up into P10 or P11. I think it's P11. So we're only 2 laps and 5 minutes into the first online race here, but I believe I have key takeaway 10. I think it's 10 anyway. And that is that online racing is going to definitely bridge the gap for this game between early access and full release, because there isn't much to do on Le Mans Ultimate currently, but this is a lot of fun, and it's very competitive as well. I mean, I'm having a properly competitive race here, and we're outside the top 10 even. I know there's a lot more pace to find, and obviously having different combinations rotating, a rating to try and increase, and multi-class racing in future, this is just going to be absolutely epic. So first impressions of multiplayer racing, I mean, it's looking good. Ooh, lock up from the Aston. Come on, I want that top 10. Oh, Aston's drifting. Oh no! Oh, I can't believe that. I saw an opportunity on the inside, and we just made a tiny bit of contact at the wrong moment, and it's just spun me around. Either way, that's thrown us right to the back of the field, 16th. I've got damage as well, I can feel it. So I was patient, but don't think I was patient enough. But that's going to be key takeaway number 11 anyway. Patience. Patience on every single front with this game. I think it needs it. I think We need patience in order for the developers to create new features and work on all of these things. We also need patience when it comes to them fixing the glitches and the issues. Also, when you're driving, you need patience to get the hang of the hypercar, to let the tires come in. It's a game that, if you're an impatient person, you're probably going to struggle with straight out the box, but if you can just be patient on pretty much every single front, this could be something very special. I really do feel like this game, and I know it's a cliche, but it's a rough diamond, let's be honest, but it feels like a especially rough super diamond. Like, the gameplay experience is really, really strong. You know, this instantly puts it up there with some of the top sims out there when it comes to the actual feel and the force feedback, the graphics, these sorts of things, and just the racing capabilities online. Straight away, it's right at the top level. But then at the same time, you've just got so many things missing at this current stage. And I feel like if this can just be polished for a long time, and it can just keep on improving, if they keep on, you know, adding current seasons as we move through, you know, 2024, GT3, stuff like that, and hopefully a career mode and all these sorts of things, I just think the potential is very, very high. We are actually catching this little battle here. We can take advantage of some mistakes that are coming. We've got potentially 3 positions to be gained. Oh, there we go. That's the first bit of lag I've seen. The first chink in the multiplayer armor. Tried to force it into a mistake and I managed it, but I couldn't quite get the space to cut back. The Ferrari's thrown themselves off though. And we've managed to pass all 3 cars, just about. It was scrappy. So circling back to what I said right at the beginning of this video, is this game in its current state good value for money? Well, for £25, what you're getting is something that is more than just a car and track and a DLC pack and you normally pay £25 for that on another sim. You're getting something that is very special and is going to improve over time. Is it worth that much right now? It's difficult to say, but you're not necessarily investing in what it is right now. I think if you're into multiplayer racing and you're experienced in sim racing, it probably is worth that now. If you're new to it all and you're not super keen on multiplayer racing, then I wouldn't say it's worth the money. However, if this game is given the time in the oven to just keep on developing and improving, that cost right now is fantastic. And I'm sure, you know, paid DLC and everything will come in the future and you'll end up spending more money, but right now, in terms of value, I think it's worth it for the investment if you really do believe that these guys are going to keep on improving this and we're going to see good results. Coming across the line, it's actually going to be P13 in the end after that crash. Okay, not a good first race, let's be honest, but a really enjoyable first race. Good battling, didn't see too much bad or dirty driving. For ranked online racing, straight out the box, absolutely no complaints. I can picture a scene in future with 62 cars lined up in the grid at Le Mans, online, driver swaps, racing with people of a similar skill and safety ranking, and this just being such a phenomenal experience. I can see the vision, it just is going to take some time, I reckon, to get there. But anyway, that is going to wrap up this video. 12 key takeaways and my general first impressions of Le Mans Ultimate Early Access. I know it's been a long video, so thank you for sticking around. Hopefully you found it useful or enjoyable or something that's made it worth the while. And also, if you do want to see more sim racing content like this in the future, do remember to subscribe to the Race Anywhere channel. I want to hear down in the comments below as well whether or not you've picked up this game yet. What are your thoughts on it? Have you had some good races online or had some great races against the AI? What kind of problems have you found? Just let us know everything down below. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, take care, and have a great week.